Welcome to the Good Contractor podcast, where we talk to contractors who do good work and we explore why the trades are just so damn exciting. I'm damn excited to talk to Dan Waters at Decks Unlimited.
The industry does not want me to exist. Finances is kind of a byproduct of doing the right thing. Mentoring is obviously a huge deal for me.
Believing in people is seriously powerful.
The main thing I try to do is get out of the way of myself.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest episode with Dan Waters at Decks Unlimited on the Good Contractor podcast. We're back for another season of the Good Contractor podcast, and guess where we are? We're at
CompanyCam.com.
That's right, .com. Thanks for including that. Yeah, we're in the computer. Or we're at CompanyCam headquarters. That's Luke. Yeah. He's the CEO of CompanyCam. I'm John Talman. I'm just a humble
tall
blue-collar worker at CompanyCam, working for Luke and hoping to get a paycheck. With us today is Dan Waters from Decks Unlimited. So tell me, when did you go from doing framing to, okay, now I'm going to get into the deck building business?
I decided that I was going to build one deck a week and fish a whole bunch. And I was going to be a pro bass fisherman.
Nice.
And I drove down to Missouri and I fished tournaments against locals.
Really?
They kicked my ass. Yeah, this is a real story.
Were you ever on television?
No, I did cash a check though. So that was cool. I got like
even better than
21st
TV.
Place or something in a tournament. And I was
Ate
very
a lot
happy
of bass.
with that.
Yeah. Hey,
And
no complaints.
I was driving back from one of those tournaments and I saw a sign that said Docks Unlimited. And I said, perfect. Changed my name to Decks Unlimited. I had to reach out to somebody out in Western Nebraska that already had the Docks Unlimited name. They made him sign off for that one letter, but they didn't mention Ducks Unlimited. So, you know, probably good that they didn't mention that.
That's funny.
I don't know how that worked out for me, but I didn't bring it to
podcast
attention.
comes out, dude. We are huge at the Ducks
Dude, they're gonna be
Unlimited
mad.
corporate
I'm getting
office.
sued.
Oh,
Getting
dude.
sued by
man,
You're gonna
it's
get
over.
shot down.
Shut
Cancel
down,
the episode.
canceled.
It's over. Dan, thanks for joining
That
us.
was
Decks
great.
Unlimited. And was it a deck a week from there on out?
No, then it just like people found out I did a good job and stuff. And then at one point I probably had like 10 different builders, 4 deck crews, a few different lumberyard changes, a few different salesman changes, trying my best to kind of show people like, hey, this is the direction I'm heading, man. I'm trying to grow a deck business. There's people that literally scoffed in my face and laughed at me and said, you will never make it on just decks. You have to do remodels too, Dan. You'll never make it on just decks.
What convinced you that you could? Obviously, I know you have confidence in your own abilities, but I just mean when you looked at the marketplace, what were you like, no, I can? Like, what led you to that?
My stepfather had drove up to Minnesota and bought a car from a guy, and that guy ran a deck company. So he told me about this guy. He's like, there's a guy up there in Minnesota. He just has a deck company. That's all he does is decks. And I was like, I can do this. I can make that happen. If you look around, there's about 10 deck contractors in town now. And I was the second one, technically.
I always love to hear this part, and I'm going to give him credit again, like I hate doing, but you know, he always acts like it was dumb luck that he has 280 really good employees, like that the culture just created itself out of thin air.
279.
Sorry, 279 great employees. But I was going to ask, like, when you were putting together your teams and you said, okay, not only did you go from these framing businesses, but then you're like, now I'm going to do decks. Then how do you find the right team members? Like, how did you select? Because obviously there's some selection there on your part running the business and then have all those people still there. Like, what was that process like?
You know, a lot of them were guys that used to frame for me. And so they just kind of came in, and as people would come ask for a job, I'd just give them a job. And the main thing I try to do is get out of the way of myself, because I will screw everything up. I will overanalyze. I will pick and poke at things that don't need touched until I wreck it. Big things happen where I've been forced to take a step back. And then it was like, well, I hope my guys can perform. And they did, and they stepped up. You know, I looked at a picture from like 8 years ago when we were kind of at the peak of that new construction. Things were going great, you know, good money's coming in. And so we took everybody to Colorado for a week, snow ski-boarding trip, and super fun. And I saw a picture of that the other day, and over half the people in the picture are still at my company. And so I'm like, okay, this is working for long term. And sometimes you forget those things, you know, you're like, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, Luke could use some advice on having people stay, and work with him for a long time. So I'd love for you to share some of that insight.
Yeah, we see that picture next year if it looks like this.
Let's just do
We're
a picture a
sunk.
year for a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll start
We are
there.
sunk. Maybe I'll be the one fading out of the image.
Just slowly.
Yeah, just like,
Everybody's here but the
Just
CEO.
like in Back to the Future, where the
Yeah,
picture just
it's right.
slowly
He's
fades.
disappearing. Tell me about Dex Unlimited, Dex City. How did the empire start to expand?
Yeah, I guess we'll call it that. Doesn't feel like that. Yeah, out of necessity. It was just issues with material all the time. And I finally was just like, okay, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to get a building. I'll save money by buying in bulk, and then I'll package my own decks. That way I know they're right when I get to the job site. So that's the original whole deal. That was all this was for, was just to make sure my guys would quit having to leave job sites, or I was just losing tons of money on it. And then, one thing led to another, and we were just like, well, we might as well sell to other people. And that was when I was like, well, nobody's going to want to buy from Dex Unlimited, because people in the construction industry feel like there's never enough work. There's a shortage. I need to cut this guy out to get to here. And so they don't want to support one another. My competition didn't want to purchase from their competition. Where the way I view things is the water's plenty warm, boys.
Right.
There's enough work. There's 10 deck builders in town now. We run 4 crews, and I can't even touch the amount of work that's there. And so I changed the name from Dex Unlimited to Dex City. That's the reason why.
Did you know anyone who had gone from being a contractor to also being their own distributor before you did it? Like, had you seen this?
No.
Were you even thinking about it like that? Like, because it sounds like you were thinking, okay, I'm just actually going to supply myself in bulk so that I'm not waiting on product. What you effectively did is now you're a contractor and you're a distributor. How is it running? I know it's kind of all one business in a sense, but like, is it financially worth the time investment compared to just like building decks?
Yeah. The industry does not want me to exist. Lumberyards don't want Deck City to be a thing because that pulls from them. And so I've been blacklisted. I've had my arms pulled behind my back. I've had my legs chopped out from underneath me. I've had distribution stolen from me. And so I've been nothing but squeezed out this entire time. It's continuing. It's happened this last year. I lost my treated manufacturer because another distributor came in and said, if you continue to sell the Dan, we're going to cut you out. They're bigger than me. Yeah, I can't do much about this.
But it's still beneficial, even to fight all that.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
It's just that control of the material and not having to rely on somebody else. Or if there was another lumberyard that could just kill it, let's do it.
Right.
I wouldn't need to take that strain.
Do they ever go after your customers?
Oh, yeah.
Not in like your
Yeah.
homeowners, but like, do they
Sure.
say like, oh, hey, if you buy from Dan, you can't buy here?
That's never that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I have lost some contractors to other local lumberyards. Just they've got more power than I do. I'm a little guy, man. What we do difference is customer service. We're going to make sure it's right. And if it's not, my guy's going to hop in a truck and bring it to you immediately and say sorry.
Well, and you've got a level of knowledge probably that if someone's ordering from you, like, and they forget the fasteners, you're like, hey, like we usually use these fasteners, like you didn't put any, do you already got those? You know, like that kind of stuff
People
that like
brings us lists like that. And they're like, well, why has he beat us out? And I was like, well, he doesn't have his fasteners. You don't have your fascia bit that you need. You don't have your deck screws. You don't have your hangers. So now I can compete with this price and get you everything you need and deliver it and also give you product advice. So we also rent tools to people. We give knowledge. We're in process of creating videos that can help assist people.
Oh, interesting.
For the DIY
like
market.
DIY stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, deck builders have been successful on social media. Like it's kind of satisfying
It
because
is,
decks
yeah.
are, like you were saying earlier, framing is kind of like unintelligible to us. It's like a blueprint. Like you don't know exactly what you're looking at. You don't know what it should look like. But then you see a deck. It's got like a pattern. It's like framed in. You know, like
it's appealing to the eye.
hung out on them. Yeah, like we kind of know because we can all tell like what looks nice. The constant refrain though that I see on all these is that like any unfinished photo attracts hundreds of comments of like, you idiot, this looks terrible.
Yeah.
Because you know you're running all the boards long and you're
Yep.
and you're chopping them at the end and doing all this thing. The point at which kind of instruction and information connect with entertainment is very popular. Like I was even my 11-year-old was complaining that they weren't doing enough science or something in school, and I was like, you know where everyone that likes science learns about science? YouTube.com. Everyone who actually likes this stuff, you can watch lectures from MIT. You can watch the best mathematician in the world teach you how to do algebra. Like there's this unlimited amount that you can learn, and that's where people generally want to go to learn, or just sort of naturally end up going to learn. What's the kind of goal, or how do you think this is going to affect your business?
When I look at business, I think of finances as kind of a byproduct of doing the right thing. I want people to be able to build a safe deck in a timely manner so they don't screw themselves over. Kind of assist just that process of, okay, here's what to do next. One best practices on how to build a deck is going to make their life a lot easier. And then we rent out all the specialty equipment. We rent out other tools as well, but like there's little, like a Westbury jig or a decking screw. You're never going to use that again.
Oh, I use my Westbury jig every day. Like obviously. Used it this morning when I woke up.
Been using it twice, 3 times a day.
Yeah, come on, especially in the winter. Okay, so by everything that you're saying, it seems clear to me going out to make the maximum amount of money is not your main goal.
No.
And so what is, like when you have something that you're like aiming at, or that you're like, I could do 10 things and I'm checking them against whatever, like what is that?
The why. That's the question for everybody. Why do you do anything? Why are you doing this? Some days I forget. I'll be honest. Some days I forget. It's easy to do some days. But then I remember it's that long-term goal. It's about bettering people's lives, leaning into individuals. It's about relationship building. And my platform is a business. My platform is a deck. That's what God's given me. And so that's my ability to give back. We have a bunch of old school dudes that are above me, and they like to hold their knowledge. They don't want to show the next generation because they feel that they will have less value if they let somebody else know that, and they'll lose their job. And so the fear of losing their job, or just fear in general, is preventing people from giving that information that you've obtained. And I would think it would be horrible if I went through my life and I didn't teach people what I knew about life, about framing, about decks, or anything. What's the point? Then it's all for me.
If all you're worried about is how to make the next dollar, you're not going to be a great contractor. But what does it look like when or what have you seen where you're like, okay, this person really gets it? Like where they showed you in a moment that they get it and they're who you want.
Man, I'm so lucky to have such good employees that it's like it's all the time. Like customers don't always see it, but the way I word it to my guys is, think about this as your grandma's house. How would you treat your grandma or your mom or whoever that person that is going to shame you the most will be? And treat them that way. Do the next right thing. When you find rot in a house, we don't cover it. Rip it all out and do it and fix it right.
Document it in CompanyCam.
Document it on CompanyCam. I wonder how many times I've said that. I think that has been the topic of my Monday morning meetings for like 4 years. Hey guys, just don't forget CompanyCam pics every day.
We might need to get some push notifications moving out to these guys. This is one of my conversations. Oh, just reminding people to do things. It's one of we hear this a lot, which is like, you can't be there the whole time. That's the point of CompanyCam.
Right.
They're there, but you have records, you have evidence, you have stuff for marketing. Like you are documenting it, but the main role of any person on that job is not documenting the work. They're doing the work. They're making sure they got the materials. They're cleaning up. Is my trailer loaded? All the million things, like, am I doing this job the right way, as if it was my grandmother's? And then CompanyCam is something of an afterthought. Yes. And having that not be an afterthought, or we're thinking like, how do we take that load partly off of the management, like such that we can help people remember to do the thing they need to do without being annoying, because you don't want apps beeping at you all the time telling you to do stuff.
So I used to every day at 2:30 send a text to the whole company that said, do not forget your CompanyCam pic. And it worked for like 6 months. Yeah. And then I stopped doing it. And then it was good for a while, and then drilled them back out, and then started doing it again.
And that is how you build truth and transparency.
Yeah. Build trust through truth and transparency. Yeah. It's only been here for 2 years.
3, but who's counting? We constantly talk to, obviously being good contractors that want to do good work. a big part of that we've noticed the trend is they're trying to help the next generation, because we do constantly hear about the trade gap and younger generations and how many are joining and how many are not joining and where's there a need. When you start to think ahead in the future about ways to pass it down, what comes to mind for you? What are plans? What are maybe just ideas? Like, how do you look at the younger generation and how you impact that?
I'm 39 and I'm in this unique world of where like I remember the world before 9/11. And so like I hear what the old generation is saying, but I'm also part of the new generation. My daughter's 19, so I've been pretty
no cap
kept up on
no
the
cap,
times.
Luke.
No cap. No cap.
Oh, yeah. That answer was bussin'. Did I do that
definitely
right?
Bussin'.
Yeah. Okay.
Bussin'. 2 bussins. It's extra bussin'.
For more hip language tips, join us on the Good Contractor podcast.
So HBAL, the Home Builders Association Lincoln, is starting some stuff. There's some really good moves that are coming up. Those guys are awesome. Cool. And I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I would rather just tag up with somebody that's already doing awesome stuff. The Bay. They are they're what's next, in my opinion. Like this, what Mike's working on right now, I think is going to really help the future of these kids. They're doing like gap year programs and going to be bringing in some tradesmen and showing these kids like what an entrepreneur can become and what that may mean. I think that could really help them out, especially in the trades. Like you can be a guy that builds 1 deck a week and fishes a whole bunch and make an okay living.
When your view of the world is very limited, depending on where you come from, depending on the people you know, depending on what your experience is, your ability to aim or even just like to pick from a broader group of careers, opportunities to aim at is just fundamentally limited when you don't have that experience or that breadth of like
options.
And like this big theme of this podcast, these are good jobs, careers, entrepreneurship opportunities in the trades.
Yep.
You can do really well. You don't need a ton of special training. You don't need to go into debt through college. Show up and maintain a good attitude, and like you can move up and you can do really well to the point that you can live quite well and have leisure time and do the rest of this. Like when you've never seen it, you don't even know.
You don't know what's possible.
Yeah. Sure.
And I mean, but you're wearing a hat that says Youth Mentor Hunt. You were talking about mentoring. You're talking about the HBAL and their mentoring. It seems to me that you are more interested in equipping, building up people than you are in making Dex Unlimited 10 times bigger than it is.
100%.
And on any given day, are you making like a conscious decision in this direction of like, I don't know, because you got a business. There's a million problems. Any given day, it's like, and there's always opportunities, like we could do this, we could do this. I could put my energy into this.
Constantly.
Like, if you're trading time, like mentoring people, I mean, I've got these yokels here that like they require, it is, but it's time that you're not in a sense building your own business. Yeah, correct. I don't know. It's the like least offensive term I could pull out of my hat.
Which pains him. He wanted to use something really
to carry forward with the longest question of all time. How much time in any given sort of day, week is this kind of like, I'll say active mentoring or just stuff in that direction versus
work stuff?
I'm like just directly working on or in my business.
I think they kind of go hand in hand, with employees and everything. You want to mentor people the best you can. I got some really good advice one time from a fisherman, and I was doing a tournament and I was fishing the back of the boat, and I was like, hey man, just talk today. Just tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're thinking. And he just looked at me and goes, you can learn a lot from a fisherman, whether it's what to do or what not to do. And I was just like, man, that's super good advice. And I just took that to life. And so every person I meet, I kind of have that in the back of my head of like, what are the good qualities that I would take? What are the things that I would leave? But back to your main question. Yes, mentoring is obviously a huge deal for me. The Youth Mentor Hunt, I'm on the board of directors for a nonprofit called Atlas Lincoln. That's all we do is mentoring. If you think of teammates, but for adults, that's what we do. My heart's always been in mentoring. And with Atlas, it's a lot of homeless, just people that didn't get opportunities, that weren't around the right people. Like everybody says, oh, that guy in the corner, why don't you just go next door and get the job? And it's like, because he can't, because he doesn't have an address, because he doesn't have a cell phone. He physically cannot go get a job. instead of looking at those people as a drain on society, that's a human being, and I think people need to really take a step back and look at that.
How does it, like, compared to like training, you hire someone and you're training a new person or something like that, like how do you, is it in any way similar to that?
Definitely.
Like have you, I'm almost wondering like what lessons you've learned from that experience to like hiring and training new people, and almost like vice versa, how that's sort of related to like the people that you actually work with, that you actually engage with every day.
It's really hard to blur that line. And that's probably why I hang on to some employees a little longer than most people would. And it's because I want the best for them. I see the best in them. I know what they're capable of. And so I want that for them. And so I'll hold on to them too long. And I end up enabling. And then it's, that's that dangerous line with mentoring, with, putting yourself out there, is because you want something so bad, you'll actually enable that person so they get to that place instead of them earning it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. We had a very similar discussion this morning where, what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
Guy lost his tape measure, and then he was borrowing the other guy's. Well, then that guy lost his tape measure. Then they want to borrow the foreman's, and it's like, no, go buy a tape measure. Are you invested in this or not?
I've thought about this a lot. Again, like with this large, like Make-A-Wish thing I'm running here. I was trying to think of the
face.
I can see you were saying, where's he going to go with this? No,
I don't even have a response.
Back to the seriousness
to
of this. Yeah. To comically take more credit than I deserve here is one of my favorite things. But believing in people is extremely powerful. What I see over and over and over at this company with people that I know is people who I don't think believe in themselves, like the best version of themselves, the future, what's possible, what kind of like what they could be if they were everything that they could be, in a sense. And that's not even to say good or bad or anything. It's just to say that like they're sort of capable of kind of more, and that often the limiting factor is like right here. It's not that they don't have the skills, the ability to learn, the tools, and believing in people is seriously powerful, because lots of times people don't have anyone that believes in them. But you were saying the kind of at the limit, like if you too much of that, in a sense, can be, in a sense, like removing the accountability. You almost take the responsibility onto yourself versus the responsibility kind of like from that person. And
so I've done that so much in business that I try not to do that in my mentoring world.
Yeah, that it's like you've learned that.
Yes.
I mean, how do you handle that where you're like, okay, I know that this is possible. Do I give someone 3 chances? Do you have any, like, I don't know, little strategy or rule, or I don't know. I'm interested in just the kind of the general, like, how you think about that in making real, actual decisions in the world, because you know that dynamic exists.
Yeah, I try to lay out my expectations. And so that way, if those expectations are compromised, then you've officially quit. I didn't have to fire you.
Do you start with lower expectations and then raise them? Like me, or at least the idea that like I've been here for 10 years, then I may operate under a much higher set of expectations than you hired me yesterday. You are going to specifically articulate expectations so that they're clear about what the expectations are, such that, and that could be different for different people. Maybe some of them are always the same, but like it's not maybe the same for everyone at every place and time. So you articulate the expectations, and then you hold the line, because you know that your proclivity, let's say, would be to be sort of like lenient, or to kind of, okay, they didn't get it this time, but they will get it next time. So now you're articulating the expectations, and then you're holding the line, and that's, at least at your business, that's how you manage this.
Yep, exactly.
And then how often are you, I keep saying explicit, but like I picture, like this is what I expect. And like, how does that change? How does that change from the day one that I hire you to, maybe now you move up to like the next level of responsibility, or I don't know how like, quantified that is at your business, but the idea that you're going to like hit these levels every time that they get a new like, okay, now you're not just cleaning up the job site or whatever, you're responsible for X, or you're running this crew, or you're my sales manager or whatever. Are you setting new expectations at every level and like having a one-on-one conversation about that?
Not so much the one-on-ones until they're reaching those things. Like right now, we're setting up to do all of my early year reviews, which is be our goal setting for wages and increases and all that of what I'm expecting out of you this year and what you want out of this year. Because I'm not going to make somebody do something they don't want to do. That just doesn't work. You cannot fit a round hole and plug into a square hole.
Maybe it's the other way around.
Maybe a square one into a round one, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Assuming the radius is larger than the longest side of the rectangle. Yeah. Keep going. I know a thing or two about geometry. I built a deck.
I see some things, some numbers. I know math.
You have a plan,
yep.
Or you have a goal for them.
Each position, like you've got your entry level, your crewman, your lead, and your foreman. Each one of those has a list next to it. And so as you get those things on those lists accomplished, you can check that off and have your supervisor sign it and then come to me and I will give you a raise.
What are some examples of things that would be on a list like this?
Like for a lead, like making sure your trailer is fully stocked, making sure your screws are always there, making sure you're not having to go grab extra stuff that should just be in your trailer already, showing up to the job site early, rolling all the tools out, getting ready. Like if people are, if my foreman's telling me that his lead is doing those things, they get a raise like that.
And there's some level of consistency there. Not that you do it once, but that like if the foreman is essentially like, I can trust X person to do this thing.
Yes.
Which is what it sounds like. Then they move up the pay structure and it's very connected.
I've made it as simple and understanding as possible. Does everybody utilize this? No. Surprises me. If I had that kind of a thing, I'd be crossing that list off so fast and be like, what's my wage range? I'm at the top of that.
Yeah, right.
So I'm trying to illustrate what my expectations are, I guess, through this. And it's like, if you want this, then you got to go get it. I'm not going to make you go get it. If you want it, go get it. And I think there's, like with every business, there's just that little bit of a disconnect between the owner and the way that I think versus the way the field thinks versus the way the office thinks. There's always those little nuances. You don't have any of that against Luke, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
We're of one mind at the board. I mean, CompanyCam.
Yeah, right. That's right. Dear leader Luke. So
got my Stalin mustache.
That's right. So we always finish up with this. So when you sit and you think what makes a good contractor, whether they're doing decks, whether they're doing framing, whether they're doing anything, how do you define that? What is a good contractor to you?
Where's your heart? Where's your heart? Is your heart in money? Then you're probably not a good contractor. Is your heart in doing the right thing for the customer? You're probably a great contractor. Do I deliver on all these things? Not even close. But I do my best. And I try my hardest and I try to do the right thing every day. And I fail a lot, but I get up and I try again tomorrow.
Yeah. It's been awesome, man. Thank you so much. Dan, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Super fun. Always a pleasure to talk with you guys.
My fingers are getting
It was a pleasure talking with you. Me talking with Luke, not so much.
Hey, we got through it.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Until next time. The Good Contractor Podcast is powered by CompanyCam.
CompanyCam is an app built to help contractors organize their with multiple people at multiple locations snapping hundreds of photos. Organizing them can become a full-time job. That's where CompanyCam comes in. Sign up today to get your team started.